Welcome to Hypnos Cosmos. Tonight, let the universe carry you gently into sleep. Take a moment, just for yourself, and let the day begin to fall away. There is nothing you need to do now. Know where you need to be. For the next little while, you can simply rest here, in the quiet, and let your mind drift wherever it wishes to go. So settle in. Find the most comfortable position you can. Let your shoulders soften. Let your hands grow heavy. And if your eyes feel like closing, let them close. You don't need to watch anything tonight. You only need to listen and breathe and slowly let go. Breathe in, gently, and breathe out, slowly. With every breath, you sink a little deeper into stillness. The world grows quieter around you. The noise of the day fades, like distant voices carried away on the wind, until all that remains is calm. Let your breathing slow, all on its own. You do not need to force it. Simply notice it, the soft rise and the gentle fall, like a quiet tide moving in and out. And with each breath, let a little more of the day dissolve. Any thought that lingers, any small worry that still hums at the edge of your mind, you can let it drift away now, out into the dark, where it grows smaller and softer until it fades entirely, and is gone. There will be time enough tomorrow for all the things of the day. For now, there is only this. The quiet. The warmth. The slow and easy rhythm of your own breath. And the vast, gentle sky, waiting patiently above you. Feel how good it is, simply to be still. To have nowhere to go, and nothing to do, and no one to be, for this one soft and unhurried while. You have carried the whole day upon your shoulders. Now you can lay it down. You can let the ground hold you. You can let the night hold you. And you can begin, slowly, to drift. Tonight, we are going to ask one of the oldest and softest questions there is. A question so vast and so gentle that it has followed our species from the very first fires, out under the very first clear skies. Tonight, slowly and quietly, we are going to wonder whether we are alone. But there is no hurry. We will take our time. We have all the time in the world. Imagine, for a moment, that you are lying somewhere open and safe, beneath a clear night sky. Perhaps a quiet field, far from any town. The grass is cool beneath you. The air is still. And above you stretches the night, vast, and dark, and scattered with countless points of light. At first, you only notice a few of the brightest stars. But as your eyes adjust to the darkness, more begin to appear. And then more. And more still. Until the whole sky seems to be filled with them, a soft dust of light spilling from one horizon to the other. And as you lie there, gazing up into that endless dark, the old question begins to form, quietly, the way it always has. Somewhere out there, among all those distant suns, is anyone else looking up? Is anyone else wondering, on some far and gentle world, whether they too are alone? Let us drift up, softly, and try to see how many worlds there truly are. Every star you can see with your eyes, and countless more that you cannot, belongs to our own galaxy, the Milky Way. It is a vast, slowly turning wheel of stars, so wide that light itself, the fastest thing there is, would need 100,000 years to cross from one side to the other. And within that we'll drift somewhere between 100 and 400 billion stars. 100 billion suns. Try, gently, to imagine that. If you tried to count them, one each second, without ever stopping to sleep or eat, you would need thousands of years just to finish our own galaxy. And ours is only one galaxy among many. For beyond the Milky Way, in every direction, lie other galaxies. Some near, some unimaginably far. Spirals and swirls and great glowing clouds of stars, drifting through the dark. And when astronomers gathered their finest telescopes and counted, gently, patiently, they found that the observable universe holds something like 2 trillion galaxies. 2 trillion galaxies, each with its own hundreds of billions of stars. The numbers grow so large that they stop feeling like numbers at all, and become something more like the sea, or the sky. Simply vast. Simply beyond us. A quiet ocean of suns, more than any mind could ever truly hold. Let that vastness settle over you softly, the way the night sky settles when you have lain beneath it long enough. We are so small against it. The whole of human history, every empire and every song, every person who has ever lived and loved and wondered, has unfolded upon a single grain of that endless sand, circling a single one of those hundreds of billions of suns, in a single one of those 2 trillion galaxies. If you could pull back far enough, until our galaxy was only a faint smudge of light among countless others, you would not be able to find our sun at all. It would be lost, utterly, in the soft glow of 100 billion stars. And yet here you are, upon that invisible mote, awake, and breathing, and wondering about the whole of it. There is something almost unbearably gentle in that. To be so small, and yet to hold the whole vast sky inside your quiet mind. And it is precisely this vastness that makes tonight's question so hard to rest. For with so many suns, and so much space, and so much time, it seems almost impossible that ours should be the only world where anyone ever woke. And so the mind returns, again and again, to the same soft wondering. Out of all those countless suns, surely, somewhere, another light. Surely, somewhere, another wondering mind. And around so many of those suns, we now know, there are worlds. For most of human history, we did not know this. We could see the stars, but we could only wonder whether they, like our own sun, held planets circling them in the dark. Then, only a few decades ago, we began to find them. Faint wobbles in the light of distant stars. Tiny, gentle dimmings as unseen worlds passed in front of their suns. And once we knew how to look, we found them everywhere. Worlds around nearly every star we studied. Small rocky worlds and vast gas giants. Worlds of molten rock and worlds of endless ice. Worlds with 2 suns in their skies, casting double shadows across strange and silent ground. Astronomers now believe that planets are not rare at all. That, on the contrary, most stars have them. Which means that in our galaxy alone, there are not billions but perhaps 1 trillion worlds, drifting quietly through the dark. And in the universe entire, the number of worlds is simply beyond counting. More planets than there are grains of sand on every beach and in every desert on Earth. So many worlds. And you are lying beneath just one of them. Now, not every world could hold life as we know it. Some drift too close to their star, scorched and glowing. Some drift too far, frozen and dark. But between those extremes lies a gentle band that astronomers call the habitable zone. The region around a star where a world might be just warm enough, and just cool enough, for water to rest upon its surface as a liquid. Not boiling away. Not frozen solid. Just water, quiet and clear, the way it is in the oceans that rock so many of us gently to sleep. And when we searched for worlds within those gentle zones, we found them too. Perhaps tens of billions of them, in our galaxy alone. Tens of billions of worlds where water might pool in quiet seas. Tens of billions of places where, just possibly, a night sky like this one is being watched by someone, or something, we have never met. So let us drift a little closer and visit a few of them softly on our way toward the question. The nearest star beyond our own Sun is a quiet, cool ember called Proxima Centauri. It lies a little more than 4 light-years away, which sounds close in the gentle way the universe measures closeness. And yet the light you would see from it tonight left that star for years ago and has been traveling ever since, just to reach your eyes. And around that quiet ember, we have found a world. A planet, roughly the size of the Earth, circling within its star's habitable zone. We call it Proxima b. We do not know if it holds oceans, or air, or anything at all. But it is there, our nearest planetary neighbor, drifting in the dark just 4 light-years away. And if, on some far evening, a being on that world looked up at their sky, one of the small points of light they would see would be our Sun. A little further out, some 40 light-years away, drifts a small, dim, red star with a gentle name, TRAPPIST-1. And it does not hold 1 world, but 7. 7 rocky planets, circling close and slow, several of them within the habitable zone. Imagine standing on one of those worlds. The other planets would hang enormous in the sky, close enough to see as disks, glowing softly in the red light of their shared and quiet Sun. 7 sister worlds, drifting together through the dark, 40 light-years from where you rest tonight. And there are so many more. Worlds we have found, and worlds we have not. Worlds with skies of pale gold, or deep and endless blue. Worlds where it rains not water, but stranger things. Worlds where the ground is quiet stone, and worlds where oceans may lie hidden beneath sheets of ice, dark and warm and secret. One great telescope, patient and unblinking, watched a single patch of sky for years, staring at 100,000 stars at once, waiting for the faint, regular dimming that betrays a passing world. And from that quiet vigil alone, it found thousands of them. Thousands of new planets, in one small corner of the sky. Which told us, gently, that if we could only watch the whole heavens with such patience, the worlds would number in the untold billions. And what strange and lovely worlds they are! There are giant planets that circle so close to their suns that their years last only days, their skies forever burning, their upper airs so hot that iron itself would rise as vapor and drift on the winds. On some of these, it is thought that iron may cool on the cold night side and fall again as rain. Rain made of metal, glittering down through a hurricane of heat, on a world where no eye will ever see it. There are worlds, larger than the Earth but smaller than the giants, that we call super-Earths, of a kind we do not even have in our own solar system, and we can only guess at what their surfaces are like. There may be worlds so rich in carbon that they hold, deep within them, vast reaches of diamond. There are worlds wrapped entirely in ocean, water without end, with no shore and no land, only a single endless sea beneath a quiet sky. And there are the worlds that circle the small, cool, patient red stars, which are the most common stars of all. Many of these worlds are held so tightly by their suns that one face is turned forever toward the light, and the other forever toward the dark. On such a world, there would be a side of eternal day, and a side of eternal night, and between them a soft and endless twilight, a ring of perpetual dusk running all the way around the planet, where the light is always low and golden, and the shadows never move. One can imagine standing in that gentle band, with a frozen night on one hand and a burning day on the other, and a sun that never rises and never sets, but simply hangs, unmoving, low upon the horizon, forever. There are even worlds, strange and haunted, that circle the cooling embers of stars that have already died, orbiting the small, dense, glowing ghosts that the great suns leave behind. Quiet planets, drifting around a fading light, in the long twilight after their star's long life is done. So many worlds. So many quiet, turning, unseen places. And you have only ever stood upon one. So many places where life might, just possibly, have begun. And yet, before we drift so very far away, it is worth remembering that we do not need to leave our own small neighborhood to find places where life might be hiding. For even here, among the planets and moons that circle our own sun, there are quiet worlds that have long made us wonder. Think, first, of Mars. That small, red, rusted world, drifting in the cold just beyond us. Today it is a desert, dry and still, its thin air whispering over dunes of ancient dust. But long ago, when the solar system was young, Mars was a warmer and gentler place. Rivers ran across its surface. Lakes gathered in its craters. There may even have been a shallow sea, lapping quietly at a northern shore, beneath a sky we will never see. And where there is water, and warmth, and time, we cannot help but wonder whether something once stirred there, in those vanished Martian seas. We have sent our small machines to roll slowly across that red ground, sniffing the air, tasting the stone, searching, patiently, for any faint trace of a life that may have come and gone billions of years ago. We have not found it yet. But we have not stopped looking. And somewhere beneath that quiet rust, the answer may still be waiting. Or think, further out, of the great moons that circle the giant planets, wrapped in shells of ice. There is a moon of Jupiter called Europa, a smooth and frozen world, cracked all over with pale lines like the veins of a leaf. And beneath that shell of ice, we now believe, there lies an ocean. A vast, dark, liquid ocean, deeper than all the oceans of the Earth combined, kept warm not by any sun, but by the slow, gentle squeezing of Jupiter's gravity. Imagine that! An entire hidden sea, wrapped in ice and darkness, drifting through the cold far from the sun. No light has ever touched its waters. And yet, on our own world, we have found life thriving in just such places, in the lightless deeps, gathered around warm vents on the ocean floor. And so we wonder, softly, whether something might drift, even now, through the black and secret waters of Europa, in an ocean no eye has ever seen. And it is not alone. Around Saturn there circles a small, bright moon called Enceladus. And from great cracks near its southern pole, it sends up towering plumes, fountains of water and ice, spraying silently out into space from the ocean hidden beneath its surface. When our machines flew through those plumes, gently tasting them, they found not only water, but salts, and the soft carbon molecules that life is built from, and the faint chemical signs of warm vents on a distant seafloor. A tiny moon, far out in the cold, quietly breathing its hidden ocean into the dark. And within it, perhaps, the same patient stirrings that once began in the seas of the Earth. And then there is Titan, the largest moon of Saturn, a world so strange it hardly seems real. Titan is wrapped in a thick, golden haze, and beneath that haze it rains. But it does not rain water. It is far too cold for that. On Titan, it rains a gentle mist of methane, which pools into rivers and lakes and slow, dark seas, lapping at shores of frozen ground. It is a world with weather, and coastlines, and a soft orange sky. And some have wondered whether life, of a kind we can barely imagine, might one day arise even there, in those cold and alien seas, built not as we are, but in some other quiet way. For if there is one lesson the universe keeps whispering to us, it is that life may be far more inventive, and far more patient, than we ever dared to think. So many places, even here, so close to home. A vanished sea on Mars. A hidden ocean under the ice of Europa. Warm plumes rising from Enceladus. Cold, dark seas on Titan, beneath a golden haze. We have not found life in any of them, not yet. But each is a quiet reminder that the universe keeps its secrets well, and that even in our own small family of worlds, we do not yet truly know whether we are alone. Let yourself drift among them for a moment, these quiet neighbors, as you sink a little deeper towards sleep. The red deserts of Mars, silent beneath a small and distant sun. The cracked ice of Europa, and the black ocean turning slowly beneath it, in a darkness no light has ever reached. The soft fountains of Enceladus, rising and falling in the cold. The golden haze of Titan, and the gentle patter of its strange, slow rain. Whole worlds, near enough that our own small machines have touched them, and still holding their secrets close. It is a strange comfort, somehow, to think of them out there right now, in this very moment, turning quietly in the dark while you rest. Not empty stage scenery, but real places, with real weather, and real mornings, going on and on whether or not anyone is ever there to see them. The universe does not wait to be watched. It simply is, endlessly, gorgeously, in a billion places at once, most of them unseen and unknown. And there is a deep peace in that. You do not have to hold it all. You do not have to understand it. You can simply let it be, out there, turning gently in the dark, while you turn gently towards sleep. And this is where the wondering deepens. Because the ingredients of life, as far as we can tell, are not rare or precious things, kept in some special corner of the cosmos. They are everywhere. The very atoms inside you, the carbon and the oxygen, the nitrogen and the iron, were forged long ago in the hearts of stars, and scattered across space when those stars gently died. And they drift everywhere. In great clouds between the stars, astronomers have found water, and sugars, and the delicate carbon molecules that life is built from, floating quietly in the dark. The stuff of living things is spread across the whole universe, like seeds carried on a wind. And here, on our own small world, life began quickly. Almost as soon as the Earth had cooled and the first oceans had formed, life was already stirring in them. Not people, not creatures you would recognize. Only the smallest, softest beginnings. But life, all the same. As if, given warm water and time and the right quiet ingredients, life is something the universe simply does. And once it began, here, it proved astonishingly tough. We sometimes imagine life as a delicate thing, needing gentle sunshine and mild days. But when we look closely at our own world, we find life clinging on in places that should, by all rights, be far too harsh for anything to survive. There are tiny creatures that live in the boiling water of hot springs, where the ground itself steams and bubbles. There are others that thrive in pools so acid they would dissolve metal, and in lakes so salt that nothing else can stir. Deep beneath the ocean, in total darkness, where the weight of the water would crush a submarine, there are whole quiet cities of life, gathered around vents where scalding, mineral-rich water pours up from within the earth, never once touched by the light of the sun. There is life frozen into the ice of the poles, and life buried miles down inside solid rock, living so slowly that a single generation may last 1,000 years. And there is a small, soft creature, no bigger than a grain of sand, that many have come to love. We call it the water bear. It can be dried until it is little more than dust, and frozen almost to the coldness of space, and blasted with radiation that would kill almost anything else. It can even be carried up beyond the sky, into the vacuum and the cold and the raw sunlight of open space, and survive. And when, at last, a drop of water returns to it, it simply swells, and stirs, and gently walks away, as though nothing had happened at all. If life is this stubborn here, this endlessly inventive, then perhaps it does not need a world exactly like our own. Perhaps it can take hold wherever there is a little warmth, and a little water, and a little time. Perhaps the gentle band of habitable worlds is wider than we thought. And perhaps the universe is far more welcoming to life than the cold distances between the stars would ever suggest. But how does it begin? That, too, is a quiet mystery. Somewhere on the early Earth, in some warm pool, or beside some deep-sea vent, the simple chemicals of the young world must have joined, unfolded, and found a way to copy themselves. To make more of their own soft pattern. And once something can copy itself, however clumsily, the long slow dance of life has begun. Small changes gather. The better patterns spread. And over unimaginable stretches of time, from that first faint stirring, everything else unfolds. The forests and the fish. The birds and the whales. And, at last, a creature that can lie beneath the stars and wonder how it all began. We do not yet know exactly how that first step was taken. We have not yet made life from lifeless matter in our own quiet laboratories, though we have come tantalizingly close, coaxing the building blocks of life to form all on their own. But whether it is easy or hard, whether it happens on nearly every warm world or almost none, is one of the deepest of all the unknowns that hide behind tonight's soft question. And it is one more reason why the night is so quiet, and so full of wonder. So put it all together, gently, the way an astronomer might, lying awake beneath the stars. Billions upon billions of worlds. Tens of billions in gentle, watered zones. The ingredients of life scattered everywhere. And a universe old enough that all of this has had billions of years to unfold. Billions of years. That is the part that is hardest to feel. For it is not only that there are so many worlds, but that there has been so very much time for something to happen on any one of them. Whole ages, longer than we can picture, in which oceans could form, and warm, and stir, and wait. Time enough for 1,000 beginnings, and 1,000 slow unfoldings. Time enough for life to rise, and fall, and rise again, on world after world, across the long, quiet turning of the galaxy. When you hold the vast number of worlds in one hand, and the vast depths of time in the other, and bring them softly together, the wonder becomes almost too great to bear. So many chances. So very, very long to take them. With so many worlds, and so much time, and such willing ingredients, surely, life must have begun somewhere else. Surely, on some far and quiet shore, beneath some other sun, something stirred, and grew, and one night looked up. The mind reaches for it the way it reaches for a warm thought on a cold night. Somewhere, it says, there must be others. Somewhere, a world with its own oceans, and its own weather, and its own slow evening light. Somewhere, a creature settling down to rest, as you are, beneath a sky it has known all its life. Somewhere, perhaps, a small one being told a story about the stars, and wondering, sleepily, whether anyone is out there. It feels almost impossible that in all that endless vastness, ours could be the only warmth, the only wondering, the only light of mind. Surely the sky is not so empty. Surely we are not so alone. This is the thought that has comforted dreamers for a very long time. That we cannot possibly be alone. That the sky above you is not empty, but quietly, secretly full. Rest for a moment in that thought, as you drift. Imagine it, softly. All across the great dark, on worlds you will never see, life quietly going about its long, slow work. Strange forests swaying in the light of alien suns. Creatures of shapes you could never dream, moving gently through seas of unfamiliar color. Perhaps, here and there, a mind. A quiet awareness, looking up, just as you are, at its own scattering of stars. The universe, in this imagining, is not a cold and empty vault, but a vast, warm, living thing, breathing softly in 1,000 hidden places, each one unaware of all the others, each one alone, and yet, together, filling the whole night with quiet life. It is a beautiful thought to hold, as the day falls away. Whether or not it is true, it costs nothing to rest within it for a while, and to feel the great dark not as a loneliness, but as a gentle company, spread thin across the stars. And yet, being the curious creatures we are, we could not simply rest in the wondering. We wanted to know. And so we began, in our small and patient way, to try to measure it. There was a scientist, many years ago, who tried to hold all of this wondering in a single gentle line of arithmetic. His name was Frank Drake, and one quiet afternoon he wrote down an equation. Not to give a final answer, for he knew he could not, but simply to organize the wondering. To lay out, softly, all the things that would have to be true for us to have company among the stars. How many stars are born? How many hold planets? How many of those planets are gentle enough for life? On how many of them life actually begins? On how many it grows, over the long ages, into something that can think, and wonder, and reach outward? And for how long such wondering might last, before it falls quiet again? That last question is perhaps the most tender of all. For it asks not how life begins, but how long a listening, wondering, reaching out civilization endures. And we do not know. We ourselves have only been able to listen to the stars for a single human lifetime. We learned to send signals into space only yesterday, in the long reckoning of the cosmos. We are so very new at this. And whether such newness lasts for a few more centuries, or for millions of years, changes everything. For if civilizations, once they arise, tend to last only a little while, then the galaxy might have hosted 1,000 of them across its history, and yet, at any single moment, hold almost none awake. They would be scatters not only across space, but across time, like candles lit one by one in an enormous dark hall, each burning briefly, then guttering out, long before the next is struck. And two candles, to see each other, must burn at the very same time. But if civilizations can learn to endure, to grow wise and gentle and lasting, to survive their own youth and its dangers, then they might accumulate, slowly, across the ages, until the galaxy grows bright with them. So much, it turns out, depends on that one soft and unknown number. On whether wondering, once begun, tends to last. Each of these is a mystery. Each is a number we do not truly know. And so the equation does not give a single answer, but a whole soft range of them. Multiply the hopeful guesses together, and the galaxy seems crowded with voices. Multiply the cautious ones, and it grows very quiet indeed. But the equation does something kinder than answer. It turns a vague and lonely feeling into a set of gentle questions. And it tells us, quietly, that whether the sky is full or empty, the truth is written out there, among the stars, waiting to be found. We only have to listen. And so, some of us began to listen. Imagine great dishes of metal, turned upward to the sky, wide and patient and still. All around the world, and even out in space, we have built machines to listen for the faintest whisper from the stars. Not for light, but for radio, the same soft kind of signal that carries music quietly through the dark to a bedside. If another world, around another sun, had ever sent such a signal out into space, on purpose or by accident, then perhaps, just perhaps, one of these patient dishes might one night catch its echo. For many decades now, quietly and without ever giving up, we have listened. We have swept our great ears across thousands upon thousands of stars. We have listened for patterns, for rhythms, for anything that does not sound like the simple, natural hiss of the cosmos. We have listened for a voice. It began, quietly, many decades ago, when a single astronomer first turned a radio dish toward two nearby stars, and simply listened, wondering if anyone might answer. It was a small and hopeful thing, that first listening. And from it grew a great and patient search, one that continues to this very night. Even now, as you lie here, somewhere in the world a dish is turned to the sky, and a machine is sifting, tirelessly, through the faint crackle of the heavens, sorting the natural whispers of the stars from anything that might, just might, be a message. So much of what we hear turns out to have a simple, natural cause. A spinning star, a distant storm of particles, the hum of our own restless world. Each promising signal is chased down, and studied, and, so far, gently explained away. And still we listen. For it costs us little to keep our ears open to the dark, and the prize, if it ever came, would be the greatest in all of human history. The moment we finally learned that we are not alone. Imagine that moment. Imagine the astronomer, some ordinary night, watching a strange and steady signal rise out of the static, and hold, and repeat. A pattern too regular to be an accident. A rhythm that could only be made on purpose, by someone, somewhere, around another star. Imagine knowing, in that instant, that the long silence had broken at last. That across the vast dark, another mind had spoken, and we had heard. It has not happened yet. But it could happen any night. Perhaps even tonight, while you sleep, that signal is already on its way, crossing the last light years toward a waiting dish, carrying a hello that has traveled for 1,000 years. And in all that time, across all those stars, we have heard silence. Not an unfriendly silence. Not a frightening one. Simply the deep, soft quiet of a universe that has not, so far, spoken to us. The stars turn. The galaxies drift. And no clear signal has ever come. No message. No answer. Only the gentle static of the sky, like the sound of a great and distant sea. Once, long ago, there was a single strange evening. A telescope caught, for 72 seconds, a signal so sharp and so unexpected that the astronomer who found it later wrote a single word beside it: wow. For a moment, it seemed the silence had broken. But the signal never came again. We looked and looked, back to that same patch of sky, and heard nothing more. And so it remains, to this day, a quiet mystery. One brief whisper in a lifetime of listening that we have never been able to explain, and never been able to hear again. But we have not only listened. Now and then, quietly, we have also spoken. For if we long to know whether anyone is out there, it is only natural to wonder whether we, too, should send a message of our own, out into the dark, in the hope that some far and gentle mind might one night receive it. And so, a few times, we have. Many years ago, from a great dish set into a green valley, we sent a single short message toward a distant cluster of stars. It was a simple picture, drawn in the language of numbers, the one language we hoped any curious mind might share. It showed the little that we are. The count of 1 to 10. The atoms that make us. The shape of the tiny code that is written inside every living thing on Earth. A small figure, standing, to say, this is roughly what we look like. Our world, and its place among the planets of our sun. And the very dish that sent the message, so that whoever caught it might know how we had reached out. A quiet hello, wrapped in mathematics, drifting now across the years towards stars so far away that no answer could return for tens of thousands of years, long after everyone who sent it has gone. And we have done something gentler still. Aboard 2 small spacecraft, launched long ago to visit the outer planets and then to drift on, forever, out of the solar system entirely, we placed a message meant not for any particular star, but simply for the dark. A golden record. Upon it we engraved the sounds of our world. The wind and the rain and the roll of the sea. The song of birds and whales. Music from every corner of the earth. Laughter. A kiss. A mother speaking softly to her child. And greetings, spoken warmly in many, many human tongues, saying hello, and peace, and friend, to whoever, in some unimaginable future, might one day find this small bottle we have cast into the cosmic sea. Those 2 spacecraft are drifting still. They have long since passed the outermost planets. They are out now in the true dark between the stars, silent and cold, carrying their golden message onward. They will drift for millions of years, and then billions, long after our sun itself has changed and faded. And perhaps, in some distant age, on some far shore of the galaxy, a gentle hand, or something like a hand, will lift one of them from the dark, and wonder at the small blue world that sent it, and hear, for the first time in an eternity, the sound of a human voice, and a whale's song, and a mother's love, carried impossibly far across the night. There are some among us who wonder whether we ought to be so bold. Whether it is wise to call out into a dark we do not understand, to strangers whose nature we cannot guess. Better, they say, to listen quietly first, and learn, before we announce ourselves to the whole sky. And there are others who feel that reaching out is simply what curious, hopeful creatures do. That a message sent in friendship, drifting for 1,000,000 years, is one of the most human things we have ever made. We have not settled the gentle argument. But either way, our small hellos are out there now, moving through the dark, whether or not anyone is ever there to hear them. And so we have done what we can. We have counted the worlds, and measured the gentle zones, and traced the ingredients of life across the sky. We have listened, for decades, with our great patient dishes. We have even called out, softly, into the dark. We have done everything a young and curious species could think to do. And still, the sky is silent. Rest here for a moment, in that quiet. There is nothing frightening in it tonight. It is only the deep, soft stillness of a universe that has not, so far, answered. And out of that stillness rises the gentlest and most haunting puzzle we have ever faced. A puzzle that is not really about the stars at all, but about us, and our strange, lonely, wandering place among them. And this brings us to the heart of tonight's gentle question. To a puzzle so simple that a child could ask it, and so deep that the wisest minds have never solved it. For here is where the wondering turns. On one side, we have all those numbers. The billions of stars. The trillions of worlds. The gentle zones, the willing ingredients, the vast unfolding of time. Everything seems to whisper that life should be common, and that the galaxy should be full of it. And yet, on the other side, we have the silence. The empty sky. The dishes that have listened for decades and heard no voice. No ships have come. No signals have arrived. In all our searching, we have found no clear sign that anyone else is out there at all. And so, one afternoon, over lunch, a great physicist named Enrico Fermi is said to have paused, and looked up, and asked a question so simple it has echoed ever since. If the universe is so vast, and so old, and so full of worlds, then where is everybody? Where are they? If life should be everywhere, why do we see it nowhere? If the galaxy has had billions of years and billions of chances, why is the night so quiet? Why, when we look up, do we see only stars and never a single sign of anyone looking back? It is a simple question. But feel, for a moment, how strange it truly is. We live in a universe that seems built for life, stocked with worlds beyond counting, seeded with the very ingredients of living things, and granted billions of patient years for it all to unfold. Everything we know whispers that we should have company. And yet everything we see whispers that we do not. The expectation and the evidence point in opposite directions, and between them lies a silence so deep and so strange that thoughtful people have puzzled over it for lifetimes and never once resolved it. That is the shape of the mystery. Not a frightening thing, but a profound one. A gap between what we would expect and what we find, wide enough to hold every hope and every fear we have ever had about our place in the cosmos. And into that gap, the imagination pours, endlessly, searching for a reason why the crowded sky should be so quiet. This gentle contradiction between the many worlds and the deep silence is what we now call the Great Silence. And no one truly knows the answer. But over the long, quiet years, thoughtful people have imagined many. And tonight, as you drift, we can wander softly through a few of them, the way you might wander through a gallery of quiet paintings, each one showing a different possible universe. So let us wonder, gently, why the sky is so silent. Perhaps the simplest answer is also the loneliest. Perhaps life truly is rare. Perhaps the long chain of soft accidents that led from warm water to wandering minds is so delicate, so unlikely, that it has happened only a handful of times, or even only once, in all the vast reaches of the cosmos. For while the ingredients of life may be everywhere, the road from a simple stirring in the water to a creature that can look up and ask questions is long, and winding, and full of quiet chances that might have gone another way. Perhaps, on most worlds, life begins, and lingers small and simple, in warm and silent seas, and never grows into anything that builds telescopes or dreams of the stars. Perhaps the night is quiet not because life is rare, but because minds like ours are rare. Perhaps we are one of the very few places in all the universe where the cosmos has, at last, woken up enough to wonder about itself. It is a lonely thought. But there is a strange tenderness in it, too. For if it is true, then you, lying here tonight, are part of something almost unimaginably precious. A rare and gentle flame of awareness in an ocean of beautiful, sleeping matter. And when we look closely at our own quiet world, we begin to see just how many soft and lucky things had to fall into place for us to be here at all. For the Earth is not simply a rock at the right distance from its star. It is the end of a long, long chain of gentle fortune, each link so unlikely that we can hardly believe our luck. Consider the moon. That pale and faithful companion, hanging in our sky. It was born, we believe, in a great and ancient collision, when a world the size of a small planet struck the young Earth, long ago, and threw a ring of glowing debris into the sky, which slowly gathered into the moon. And that moon, ever since, has steadied us. It holds the tilt of the Earth gentle and constant, so that our seasons turn slowly and kindly, year after year, instead of lurching wildly from one extreme to another. Without it, our world might wobble, and our climate might swing from fire to ice and back again, far too harshly for anything like us to endure. A quiet accident, billions of years ago, that made the difference between a stable home and a restless one. Consider, too, the great planet Jupiter, drifting far out in the cold. With its enormous gravity, it has acted, across the ages, like a patient guardian, drawing many wandering comets and stray mountains of ice and rock toward itself, and away from us. again and again, through the long history of the Earth, that giant has quietly swept the skies, catching blows that might otherwise have fallen upon our fragile world. We live, in a sense, in the shelter of a giant. Consider that the Earth's heart is still warm, and still turning, so that its surface drifts and folds and renews itself, slowly recycling the very stone, keeping the air and the seas in a gentle, living balance across the ages. Consider that deep within it, a churning core of molten metal wraps the whole world in an invisible shield, turning aside the fierce winds of the sun, which might otherwise have long ago stripped away our air and our water, and left us as dry and dead as Mars. Consider that our sun itself is a calm and steady star, not too fierce, not too fitful, glowing gently and evenly for billions of years, long enough for the slow patience of life to unfold. Consider that we orbit at just the right distance, in just the right kind of galaxy, in just the right quiet corner of it, far from the crowded and violent center where the stars are packed too close for peace. Any one of these might seem a small thing, but together they begin to look like a very long run of luck indeed. And so some have wondered whether simple life may be common across the cosmos, stirring in warm waters on 1,000 worlds, while complex life, the kind that grows large, and gathers into forests and creatures and, at last, into minds, may need such a delicate chain of fortune that it is vanishingly rare. Perhaps the galaxy is quietly teeming with the small and the simple, and yet almost empty of anyone who could ever look up and wonder. Perhaps the seas of 1,000 worlds are stirring softly with life, and yet not one of them has ever built a telescope, or sent a signal, or asked the question you are asking tonight. It is a strange and humbling thought, to lie here and consider how many quiet accidents had to gather, across billions of years, simply so that you could exist to feel your own soft breathing in the dark. But there is a gentleness in it, too. For it means that whatever else you are also improbable. A rare and lucky thing. A gathering of fortunes almost too great to believe. Or perhaps the answer is kinder. Perhaps they are out there, many of them, but simply too far away, and too far apart in time, for us ever to meet. Remember how vast the distances are. The nearest stars are years of light away. The far side of the galaxy is 100,000 years of light beyond that. Even if the galaxy holds 1,000 civilizations, they might be scattered so thinly across that enormous wheel that each one is hopelessly alone, separated from the next by gulfs of space so wide that no signal, and no ship, could ever cross them in time. And time itself may be the deeper distance. Our galaxy is billions of years old. A civilization might rise, and wonder, and listen, and fall quiet again, all within a few thousand years, a mere blink against that vastness. Two such civilizations, to ever meet, would have to be awake at the very same moment, in a galaxy where the moments stretch on for billions of years. Perhaps the sky is full of voices, but each speaks only for a heartbeat, and no two heartbeats have yet fallen together. Perhaps, right now, someone is listening, exactly as we are. And perhaps we have simply, gently, missed each other in the dark. Or perhaps they are there, and near, but we do not know how to hear them. We listen for radio, because that is what we ourselves learn to make. But that is a young and clumsy thing, only a century old on our own world. A civilization far beyond us might speak in ways we cannot yet imagine. In light too faint, or signals too strange, or through means we have not even dreamed of. Perhaps the sky is full of conversation, and we are simply not yet able to hear it. Like someone who cannot read, standing in the greatest library in the world, surrounded by voices they cannot yet understand. Or perhaps the silence is chosen. Perhaps the older civilizations, the wise and quiet ones, have simply learned to listen rather than to shout. Perhaps they watch, and wait, and say nothing, letting each young world find its own way in its own time. Perhaps, in the great and gentle etiquette of the cosmos, the newest voices are left in peace, to grow, and dream, and wonder, undisturbed. Perhaps we are not ignored, but simply, tenderly, being given room. There is a thought, soft and strange, that some have called the quiet garden. That the older ones know we are here. That they have known for a long time. And that they have chosen, out of patience or kindness, to leave us to our own slow unfolding, the way you might watch a child sleeping, and step quietly back from the door, and let them dream. And there is a stranger version still of this quiet thought. Perhaps they are not only watching from afar, but are, in some sense, already here, all around us, and simply so far beyond us that we cannot perceive them at all. We are used, after all, to living surrounded by things we cannot sense. There are sounds too low and too high for our ears. There is light our eyes will never see. There are tiny worlds, teeming with life, that we never noticed until we built the lenses to reveal them. A creature of the deep ocean floor knows nothing of the ships that pass far above it, or of the cities on the distant shore. And so perhaps a mind vast enough, and old enough, and different enough from ours, could move through the very same universe we do, and remain as invisible to us as the whole human world is to a fish in the dark. Not hiding. Simply beyond our small and gentle senses. Present, perhaps, in ways we have no words for, and no way, yet, to know. We cannot say. It may be a fancy, a dream, a story we tell ourselves in the quiet. Or it may be the plainest truth of all, one we are simply not yet grown enough to see. And that uncertainty, too, is part of the soft mystery you can rest within tonight. And there are darker thoughts, too, though we need not linger long on them tonight. Some have wondered whether there is a wall that most civilizations run into, a great filter somewhere along the long road from simple life to the stars. Perhaps that wall lies behind us, and we have already, luckily, passed through it, which would mean the hardest part is done. Or perhaps it lies ahead, and every civilization, on growing powerful enough to reach the stars, also grows powerful enough to end itself, and falls quiet before it ever can. We do not know where the wall is, or even if it is real. But it is one more reason, perhaps, for tenderness. One more reason to hold our own small world gently, and to hope that we are wiser than the silence might suggest. Or perhaps the silence has a gentler cause still. Perhaps we are simply early. Perhaps we have arrived at the great gathering of the cosmos not too late, but far too soon. For though the universe seems ancient to us, in truth it is still very young. The stars will go on being born for a very, very long time, far longer than has passed since the beginning until now. Trillions of years stretch out ahead, in which countless new suns will kindle, and countless new worlds will cool, and countless new chances for life will quietly unfold. Set against all that vast future, our own moment is astonishingly early. And so perhaps the reason the galaxy seems so empty is simply that the great age of life has not yet begun. Perhaps we are the early ones, the first quiet risers in a house where almost everyone is still asleep. And perhaps the voices we long to hear belong not to the past, but to a future so distant we can scarcely imagine it. And there is something quietly beautiful in that thought. For if we are among the first, then we are not the last of anything, but the beginning of something. Not the lonely survivors of a silent galaxy, but its early morning. The first faint light before a long and crowded day. Perhaps, 1 billion years from now, the Milky Way will hum with life and voices, world calling to world across the dark, and those distant beings will look back, in their histories, to the very earliest ones who ever woke and wondered. And perhaps, in some gentle sense, that is us. Perhaps we are the ancient ancestors of a future we will never see, lighting the very first small fires in a galaxy that has all its long day still ahead of it. There is no loneliness in that. Only the quiet dignity of being early, of being among the first to open our eyes, in a universe that is only just beginning to wake. Or perhaps the older ones are out there, and always have been, but have long since become something we could no longer recognize as company at all. For consider how quickly we ourselves have changed. Only a few centuries ago, we could not fly, or speak across the world in an instant, or think with the help of machines. A civilization older than ours by even a few thousand years, a mere breath in the life of a galaxy, might have traveled so far beyond us that we cannot picture it. They might have long ago set aside their soft and fragile bodies, and become something else. Minds woven into machines. Thought poured into cool and patient circuitry, no longer needing air, or warmth, or worlds at all. Perhaps they drift quietly between the stars, in no hurry, thinking slow and enormous thoughts across the ages. And perhaps, to such beings, our frantic little radio whispers are as easy to miss as the buzzing of an insect on a warm afternoon. Some have wondered whether such ancient minds might even be sleeping, on purpose, and waiting. For thinking, it turns out, is easier and cheaper in the cold, and the universe now is still warm and bright and wasteful. So perhaps the oldest civilizations have simply chosen to rest, to fold themselves away into a long and patient slumber, and to wait for the distant, freezing future, trillions of years from now, when the last stars have dimmed and the cosmos has grown quiet and cold, and their vast, cool thoughts can unfold in peace. Perhaps the galaxy is not empty, but only sleeping. Perhaps, like you tonight, it has simply closed its eyes for a while, and gone to rest, and will wake again in an age we will never see. Then there is a quieter puzzle still. If even one civilization, anywhere, in all the long history of the galaxy, had ever wished to fill it, they could have. They would not even need to travel far themselves. They would only need to build a single patient machine, able to cross to the nearest star, and there to build more of itself, from the rocks and metals it found waiting. And those would build more, and so on, and so on. Slowly, gently, over a few million years, a mere afternoon in the life of the galaxy, such quiet machines could spread from star to star until they had touched every world in the Milky Way. And yet, when we look around our own solar system, we find no such visitors. No ancient machines, waiting patiently in the dark. Which means that either no one has ever chosen to send them, in all these billions of years, or that the reason for the silence runs deeper than we know. And when we turn our telescopes outward, searching for the great works that a mighty civilization might build, we find those, too, missing. For a civilization grown vast and hungry for energy might, some have imagined, learn to gather the light of its own star, wrapping it in a great swarm of collectors, so that not a single ray is wasted. Such a star would dim and redden in our telescopes, hidden behind the works of its makers. We have looked for these strange, darkened suns. We have swept across the sky, searching for the warm glow of vast unseen engineering. And we have found nothing we cannot explain in simpler, quieter ways. No cities the size of worlds. No stars wrapped in the works of others. Only the sky as it seems to be. Natural, and silent, and still. Or perhaps, in the end, the answer is the plainest and most humbling of all. Perhaps the distances are simply too great, and the crossing too hard, for anyone, ever. Perhaps life is scattered across the galaxy after all, on 1,000 quiet worlds, but each one is held fast by the sheer vastness of the space around it, unable to cross the oceans of light years that separate the stars, just as we ourselves are held, for now, upon our own small world. Perhaps every civilization is an island. Perhaps they rise, and wonder, and listen, and reach out with their faint signals, and never once manage to touch another shore. And perhaps the silence is not emptiness at all, but only distance. The soft, unbridgeable distance between islands, in a sea far too wide to cross. You see how many answers there are, and how none of them can yet be proven. The wondering does not resolve into a single quiet truth. It opens, instead, into a whole soft sky of possibilities, each one as beautiful and as uncertain as the stars themselves. Consider some of them, slowly, one by one, the way you might turn smooth stones over in your hand, as the night deepens around you. Long ago, a thoughtful astronomer wondered how you might measure a civilization. Not by its cities, or its stories, or its age, but by something simpler and more universal. By its hunger. By the sheer amount of energy it had learned to gather and to use. For everything a living world might do, every light it lights, every voice it sends into the dark, every ship it builds and every dream it chases, all of it, in the end, is paid for in energy. And so he imagined a great gentle ladder, rising from the smallest beginnings all the way to the unthinkable, and he marked it out in 3 soft steps. The first step he imagined belonged to a civilization that had learned to gather all the energy falling upon its own world. All the sunlight that touches its oceans and its lands. All the winds, and the tides, and the warmth rising from beneath its crust. A world that wasted nothing, that had woven its whole planet into a single quiet web of power. Such a people could shape their weather, and light their nights as bright as day, and turn the full strength of their world to whatever they wished. We are not there yet. We are still climbing toward that first soft rung, still burning the buried sunlight of ancient forests, still letting most of our stars' light fall past us, unused, into the dark. We are a young thing, only partway up the very first step. And there is something tender in that. We are children, still, in the long story of what a civilization might become. The second step he imagined was greater by far. A people who had outgrown their single world, and learned to gather not just the light that fell upon their planet, but all the light of their star. Every ray it poured out in every direction, caught and kept and put to use. To do such a thing, some have dreamed, a civilization might build a vast and gentle swarm around its sun, a cloud of countless collectors, drifting in slow orbits, drinking the starlight whole. A star wrapped softly in the works of its makers, shining now not outward into space, but inward, feeding the endless appetites of a people grown vast beyond our imagining. Such a civilization would command more power in a single moment than ours has used in all of its history. And its star, seen from far away, would look strange to us. Dimmed. Reddened. Half hidden behind the great soft veil of its own harvest. And the third step, the highest he dared to imagine, was greater still, and almost too vast to hold gently in a sleepy mind. A civilization that had spread across not one star, but an entire galaxy. That had learned to gather the light of 100 billion suns. That had woven itself through the whole slow wheel of a galaxy's turning, tending its stars the way a gardener tends a field, patient across millions of years. Such a people would be, to us, very nearly as gods. Their works would span the void between the stars. Their thoughts, if they still had anything we might call thoughts, would move on scales of time so long that a human life, or the whole of human history, would pass beneath their notice like a single quiet breath. And here is the wondering that comes softly with all of this. If such civilizations are possible, and the universe is old, far older than the Earth, with billions of years in which others might have risen and climbed that gentle ladder ahead of us, then where are they? A galaxy tended by a great and ancient people should not look empty. It should glow, perhaps, with the warmth of countless harnessed suns. It should hum, perhaps, with signals and structures and the slow works of ages. And yet, when we turn our eyes to the sky, we see none of it. We see stars burning freely, wastefully, pouring their light out into a dark that no one seems to be gathering. We see a galaxy that looks, for all the world, untended, wild, quiet, as though we had walked into an ancient forest and found no paths, no fences, no fields. Only the trees, growing as they pleased, in the soft and patient dark. Perhaps, then, no one has climbed so high. Perhaps every civilization that ever began is still down near the bottom of the ladder, as we are, small and young and struggling upward, and none has yet had the time, or the fortune, to rise to those great heights. Perhaps the mighty ones are simply not there, not because they died, but because they have not yet been born. Or perhaps they are there, and we do not know how to see them, our eyes too new, our instruments too simple, mistaking the works of great minds for the plain and natural sky. We cannot yet say. We can only look up at all that free and wasted starlight, and wonder whether anyone, anywhere, has ever learned to catch it. There is a strange comfort in being small like this. In being early, and young, and unfinished. It means the whole long climb still lies ahead of us, unspoiled, and that whatever we become, we have barely begun to become it. Let that thought rest gently on you now. You belong to a young people, on a young world, near the very bottom of a ladder that rises further than any of us can see. And there is no hurry in the climbing. There is time. There is so much time. And here is another quiet thought, one that some have turned over in the dark for many years. Imagine the whole long journey, from a lifeless world to a great civilization among the stars, as a single narrow road. A road with many gates along it. At the very start, the gate of life itself, the first stirring of something that could copy itself, out of nothing but chemistry and time. Then the gate of the living cell, grown complex, with its tiny machines and its careful walls. Then the gate of many cells learning to live as one. Then the slow gates of plants, and animals, and minds, and language, and tools, and at last the gate of a people who could look up, and understand, and reach for the stars. A long road, with many gates, and at every one of them, the journey might quietly end. Somewhere along that road, some have wondered, there may be a gate so narrow that almost nothing passes through it. A great filter, they have called it. A single hard step, or perhaps a few, that stops nearly every world before it ever reaches the stars. And the strange thing, the thing that makes this thought worth turning over gently in the night, is that we cannot yet tell where along the road that gate lies. Whether it is behind us, or whether it is still ahead. Think, softly, of what it would mean if the gate is behind us. If the hardest step of all was one we have already, somehow, against all odds, passed through. Perhaps it was the very beginning, the first spark of life, so unlikely that on almost every world the chemistry simply never catches, and the seas stay barren for all the long ages of the star above them. Or perhaps it was later, the leap from the simple cell to the complex one, a leap that on our own world seems to have happened only once, in all of 4 billion years. If the great filter lies behind us, then the silence of the sky is not a warning at all. It is only loneliness. It means the road is nearly empty because the early gates are so terribly narrow, and we are among the rare and fortunate few who slipped through. It means we may be, if not the only travelers, then among the first, and the loneliest, and the most improbable. And it means the way ahead of us is open. that having passed the hardest gate, we might go on, and up, and out, into a galaxy that is ours to wander, quiet and unclaimed. But there is another possibility, and it is a heavier one, though you need not carry it tonight. Perhaps the great filter is not behind us at all. Perhaps the early gates were easy, and life is common, and simple worlds teem all across the galaxy, and the hard gate, the one that stops nearly everyone, lies somewhere still ahead of us on the road. A gate we have not yet reached. Some have wondered whether it is the very thing we are living through now, this dangerous young moment when a people first grows powerful enough to reshape its world, and must learn, quickly, not to destroy itself with that same power. Whether every civilization, sooner or later, comes to a narrow bridge it must cross, and most of them fall. If that is so, then the silence of the sky is the silence of those who did not make it. A long quiet, kept by all the worlds that rose, and reached, and stumbled, before they ever touched the stars. And this is why, strange as it sounds, some who think about these things have hoped, quietly, that we never find even the smallest life on Mars, or in the dark seas of the outer moons. For if life turns out to be everywhere, springing up easily wherever there is warmth and water, then the early gates were never the hard ones. And the hard gate, the great filter, must lie ahead. But if life is rare, if we search those other worlds and find them empty, then perhaps the hardest step really is behind us, and the road ahead is clear. It is a curious thing, to hope for emptiness. To wish the sky truly silent, so that our own long journey might be safe. But there is a gentleness in it too. A hope that the worst is over. That we have already come through the narrowest place, and that what remains is only the long, slow climbing toward the light. We do not know which it is. We may not know for a very long time. And tonight, it does not matter which. For whether the great filter lies behind you or ahead, this night is safe, and this bed is warm, and the stars above you are turning as they always have, patient and unhurried, keeping their long watch over a young and fragile people who have, so far, against every odd, survived. You are here. Your kind is here. Whatever gates lie ahead, you have already passed through more than you will ever know, simply to exist at all, on this one quiet night. And that is enough. That is more than enough. Let the road ahead take care of itself. Let the gates wait. You have only to rest. And perhaps, in the end, none of it is about death, or rarity, or filters at all. Perhaps the sky is quietly full of gentle minds, and the only thing that keeps us apart is the plain and enormous size of the dark between us. It is hard, lying here in a warm room, to truly feel how far the stars are. We say the words, a light year, for light years to the nearest star. But the words are small, and the distance is not. Let it unfold slowly for you now, in the quiet. The light you see from our own sun, that warm and ordinary star, takes 8 minutes to reach us, crossing all that empty space at the fastest speed there is. The light from the next star beyond it takes not minutes, but years. More than 4 long years, traveling without rest, never slowing, faster than anything we have ever built, just to cross the gap to our very nearest neighbor. And that is the closest one. The near shore. Beyond it, the distances only grow, star after star, until the numbers climb past anything a mind can hold, into the hundreds and the thousands of years of traveling light, and then the tens of thousands, all the way across the great turning wheel of our galaxy. Now imagine trying to cross that, not as a beam of light, but as a living thing. As a ship, made of metal and hope, carrying warm and breathing passengers. Even if we built the fastest craft our cleverness could dream of, far swifter than any rocket we have yet flown, the journey to even the nearest star would swallow whole human lifetimes. No single traveler would live to see the far shore. The ones who arrived would be the great-great-grandchildren of the ones who left, born in the dark between the stars, living and dying in a moving world of corridors and quiet lights, tending the ship for a landfall they themselves would never reach. A voyage measured not in days or years, but in generations. A cathedral of a journey, begun by people who would only ever see its foundations. And so you begin to feel the shape of the answer. Perhaps they are out there, the others. Perhaps 100 gentle civilizations are scattered across the galaxy at this very moment, each one glowing quietly around its own star, each one wondering, just as we are, whether anyone else is near. And perhaps not one of them can reach another. Not because they do not wish to. Not because they are afraid. But simply because the sea is too wide. Because every star is an island, and the water between the islands is made of light years, and no ship, however patient, however clever, can easily cross so vast and silent an ocean. Perhaps every wandering people in all the galaxy is held fast upon its own small world, or its own small handful of nearby worlds, gazing out at the lights of the others, close enough to see, far too distant ever to touch. Even a simple message, a whisper sent by radio at the speed of light itself, would take years to cross to the nearest star, and centuries or millennia to reach the more distant ones. Imagine a conversation in which every question takes 1,000 years to arrive, and every answer another 1,000 to return. A single hello and its reply might span the whole rise and fall of a civilization. You might send a greeting to the stars as a young and hopeful people, and the answer might come back long after your cities had crumbled, your languages had been forgotten, your very species had changed beyond knowing. The galaxy could be alive with such slow and patient greetings, drifting across the dark for ages, and we would hardly know, because the timescales are so long, so far beyond a human life, that they pass us by like the slow drift of the continents beneath our feet, too gradual ever to feel. There is a strange peace in this thought, once the loneliness of it softens. It means the silence may not be emptiness. It may only be distance. It means that when you look up at a quiet sky, you may not be looking at an abandoned universe at all, but at a crowded one, full of far and gentle neighbors, all of them just as unreachable to each other as they are to us. A galaxy of islands, each with its own small fire burning on the shore, each one wondering about the others, and none of them ever able to swim the dark and silent sea between. Not lonely, exactly. Only far. Only patient. Only waiting, as we wait, on their own quiet beaches, beneath their own strange stars. And you, tonight, are on one of those shores. This whole warm world is your island, adrift in the enormous dark, and you are safe upon it, held by its gravity, wrapped in its air, watched over by its single gentle star. You do not need to cross the sea tonight. You do not need to reach anyone, or answer anyone, or send any signal into the dark. You need only lie here, on the soft shore of the world, and listen to the quiet lapping of the night against its edges, and let the far lights of the other islands shine down on you, distant and kind, as you drift slowly toward sleep. And still, even knowing how vast the silence is, we listen. We have never stopped listening. There is something tender in that, something worth carrying gently into sleep. A young species, alone on its small world, turning great ears to the sky, year after year, patient and hopeful, in case someone, somewhere, is calling. For many years now, we have swept the sky with our radio telescopes, those great dishes turned upward like open hands, drinking in the faint whispers that fall from the stars. Most of what they hear is only the natural murmur of the universe. The soft hiss of distant gas. the steady pulse of spinning stars. The ancient afterglow of the cosmos itself, still gently warm from its beginning. But every so often, we listen for something different. Something that nature does not make. A signal too narrow, too pure, too deliberate to be born of burning gas or turning rock. A single clean note, standing out from the wide and noisy music of space, the way a voice stands out from the sound of wind. That is what we are listening for. A voice. One clear, patient note, sent on purpose, across the dark. In recent years, the listening has grown greater than ever before. Vast surveys now sweep across many thousands of the nearest stars, and across the hearts of distant galaxies, gathering more whispers from the sky in a single day than all the years of listening that came before. Great machines sift through oceans of faint signals, searching, tirelessly, for that one note that does not belong. It is a search for a needle in a haystack, but the haystack is the size of the sky, and the needle may not even be made of straw, and we are not entirely sure what the needle would look like if we found it. And yet we search. Night after night, we search. And we have learned, too, to listen with more than radio. For a civilization might not whisper in radio waves at all. It might call with light itself. A brief, brilliant pulse from a great laser, aimed across the void, bright enough for a single instant to outshine its own star. And so we watch, now, for flashes. For sudden, impossible glimmers, gone as quickly as they came, that might be a beacon, or a message, or simply the spillover of some far machinery we cannot imagine. We watch the stars not only for their steady light, but for the quick and secret sparks that might be hidden in it. And there is a stranger kind of looking still. For a great civilization might not send any message at all, might not even know we are here, and yet still leave traces we could find, if we looked closely enough. The chemistry of its world, breathed out into its air. The faint stain of its industry, drifting in the light that passes through its atmosphere on the way to us. Even, perhaps, the vast structures we spoke of before, the great swarms built to drink a star's whole light, which would betray themselves by the strange way they dimmed and reddened their sun. We have looked for such things. Once, a single distant star caught our attention, flickering and dimming in a way we could not easily explain, and for a little while the whole world wondered, quietly, whether we had found the works of some great unseen people, half building a shell around their sun. In the end, it seems to have been only dust, and comets, and the ordinary strangeness of nature. But for a moment, we held our breath. For a moment, the sky seemed as though it might, at last, be about to answer. That is what the listening feels like, always. A long, patient holding of breath. A quiet hope, renewed each morning, that today might be the day. We have been listening, in earnest, for only a handful of decades, a mere blink in the long life of the galaxy. We have searched only a tiny corner of the sky, at only a few of the countless frequencies a voice might use, for only the briefest sliver of time. If the galaxy were an ocean, we have so far dipped a single cup into it, and looked, and found the cup empty of fish, and drawn from that no conclusion at all, except that the ocean is very large, and our cup is very small, and we have only just begun to look. So the silence we have found is not yet an answer. It is only the sound of a search barely started. There may be a voice out there even now, patient and clear, falling on a patch of sky we have not yet turned our ears toward, waiting in a frequency we have not yet thought to try. We do not know. We cannot know, not yet. But we go on listening, because to listen is a kind of hope, and because the day we stop listening is the day we decide, without proof, that we are alone. And we are not ready to decide that. Not yet. Perhaps not ever. Let that be a gentle thought to rest on. Somewhere tonight, while you sleep, the great dishes are still turned to the sky, still drinking in the faint light of distant stars, still searching, patiently, on your behalf, for a voice in the dark. You do not have to listen tonight. Others are listening for you, as they always are, all through the quiet hours. You can let the search go on without you, and simply rest, knowing that the long watch is kept, and that if ever the sky does speak, there will be someone awake to hear it. And when you think of where that voice might one day come from, do not picture only worlds like ours. For the more we have looked, the stranger and the more wonderful the sky has become, and the places life might hide are far more varied than we once dared to dream. Think of the small, cool stars, the red dwarfs, the most common stars in all the galaxy. They are dim and gentle things, burning slowly, hoarding their fuel, and because they burn so slowly, they live almost forever. A star like our Sun will shine for some 10 billion years, and then swell and fade. But a red dwarf can burn softly for hundreds of billions, even trillions of years, far longer than the universe has yet existed. Around such patient stars, worlds might circle for ages beyond all imagining, with all the time in creation for life to begin, and stir, and slowly become something wondrous. If life needs only warmth, and water, and time, then these small red stars may be the greatest nurseries of all, and the universe may be only just beginning, its longest and most fruitful ages still ahead, waiting quietly in the deep future around 10 billion gentle suns. The worlds around such stars would be strange to us and beautiful. Many of them would circle so close to their small dim sun that they would turn to face it always, one side held forever in a long red day, the other in an endless night. And along the soft line between, the everlasting twilight that rings such a world, the light would fall gently and forever slanted, and there, some have wondered, in that ribbon of eternal dusk, life might find a quiet and temperate home. Imagine it! A world where the sun never rises and never sets, but hangs low and red upon the horizon, unmoving, for all of time. Where a traveler might walk from the frozen dark, through the endless gentle dawn, into the warm red day, and never once see the sun climb or fall. There may be 1,000 such worlds within our reach, each one wrapped in its own strange and lovely light. And think of the ocean worlds, the moons and planets sheathed in ice, with dark seas hidden far below. We spoke of them before, the frozen moons of the outer dark, with their buried oceans kept warm by the slow kneading of the tides. But such worlds may be everywhere, drifting around countless stars, and even, perhaps, in the cold and starless spaces between. For not every world belongs to a sun. When solar systems are born, in their early chaos, some worlds are thrown out entirely, flung from their homes into the deep, to wander the galaxy alone, without any star at all. Rogue planets, we call them, drifting forever through the dark between the suns, cold and lightless and free. There may be more of these lonely wanderers than there are stars in the whole galaxy. Billions upon billions of orphan worlds, adrift in the endless night. And you might think such a world must surely be dead, so far from any warming light. And yet, deep beneath a thick blanket of ice, warmed from within by the slow heat of its own rocky heart, even a starless world might hold a hidden ocean, dark and still and liquid, sealed away from the frozen surface above. And in that buried sea, who knows, warmth and water and time might do their patient work, just as they may have done in the hidden oceans of our own solar system. Life might drift there, in the lightless deep, never knowing there was ever such a thing as a star, or a sky, or a sun. Whole living worlds, sailing alone through the dark, carrying their secret seas within them like a warmth kept safe against the cold. How many places there are, then, for life to hide? not only the gentle blue worlds like our own, circling their bright and ordinary stars, but the twilight worlds of the red dwarfs, and the buried oceans of the frozen moons, and even the lonely wanderers adrift in the starless dark. The universe, the more we look at it, does not seem like a place that is stingy with its homes. It seems, instead, to scatter warm and watered places everywhere, generously, carelessly, in every strange corner and along every gentle edge. Whether it fills those homes with life, we still do not know. But it has built the homes. Countless numberless homes, waiting quietly in the dark, warm and dim and patient, as though the universe had made room, everywhere, just in case. Let that be a soft and spacious thought to drift upon. The sky is not a cold and empty vault. It is a vast and gentle country, full of hidden warmths and quiet seas and slow red suns, full of more room for life than we could ever hope to visit. And somewhere in all that gentle country, perhaps, another small and drowsy creature is settling now into its own strange rest, on a twilight shore, or beneath a buried sea, or on a world adrift with no star at all, closing its eyes beneath a sky as strange to us as ours would be to it. Rest well, wherever you are. There is room enough, in this wide universe, for all of us to sleep. And here is a gentler wondering still, one that softens the whole hard question of beginnings. Perhaps life does not need to start over, from nothing, on every world. Perhaps, once it has begun anywhere, it drifts. For when a great rock strikes a living world, in the slow violence of the early ages, it can throw pieces of that world up and out, beyond the reach of gravity, into space. Stones flung from the surface, carrying with them, perhaps, the smallest and hardiest of living things, tucked away in their cracks and hollows. And some living things are astonishingly hardy. There are tiny creatures on our own world that can endure the cold and the emptiness of space, that can be frozen almost to nothing, dried to dust, bathed in the raw light of the sun, and still, when warmth and water return, stir softly back to life. If such travelers can survive the journey, then life need not begin again on every world. It might simply spread, drifting on stones from one world to the next, a seed carried on the wind between the stars. Imagine, then, that long ago, life began just once, on some warm and ancient world we will never know, and that ever since it has been quietly seeding the dark. Riding out on shattered stones, drifting for ages through the cold, and settling, now and then, by the slow luck of gravity, onto some new and waiting shore. Perhaps the seas of many worlds were quickened this way, by the same distant beginning, so that all the life of a whole region of the galaxy shares, in the deepest and most secret way, a single common root. Cousins, scattered across the light years, grown into 10,000 different shapes on 10,000 different worlds, and yet all sprung, once, from the same first stirring in the same forgotten sea. We do not know if it happened so. It may be that life begins fresh and alone on each world, or on none, or on almost none. But there is a tenderness in the thought that we might be seeds. That the stuff of us might be far older than the earth, and far more traveled, and that somewhere out there, on worlds we will never see, there might be living things that are, however distantly, our kin. It would mean the tree of life is not a single lonely thing, rooted on one world, but a vast and drifting forest, its seeds blowing gently across the whole dark garden of the galaxy, taking root wherever the soil is warm. And even if life does not travel on stones, there is a deeper kinship still, one we know for certain, one that needs no drifting seed to be true. For every living thing on Earth, and everything that might live on any world anywhere, is built from the same small handful of ingredients, forged in the same great furnaces. The carbon in a leaf, and in your own warm hands, was made in the heart of a dying star. The oxygen in every breath you take, and in every sea on every world, was born in the same stellar fire. Whatever lives, wherever it lives, must be made of the ashes of stars, for there is nothing else to make it from. In that sense, all possible life, everywhere, is already family. Already cousins. Already made of the same bright dust, scattered by the same ancient deaths, and gathered, here and there, across the vast dark, into small warm things that breathe, and grow, and wonder. So whether or not we are alone, we are never truly strangers to whatever else might live. We would know them, if we met them, in the deepest way that matters. Not by their shape, which might be past all recognizing, but by the stuff of them. Star stuff, like us. Ashes of the same fires. Children of the same long, patient cooking of the cosmos, which takes the dust of dead stars and, ever so slowly, teaches it to live. You are made of that dust tonight. So is every creature that has ever crawled or swum or flown on this world. And so, perhaps, is every gentle thing that stirs beneath some far and unknown sun. All of us, the same ancient stardust, warmed for a little while into life, and wondering, each in our own strange way, about the rest. Let that carry you softly now. You are not a stranger here. You never were. You are made of the oldest stuff there is, the same stuff as the stars, and the seas, and every living thing that might share this vast dark with you. You belong to all of it, and all of it, in some quiet way, belongs to you. And there is nothing to fear in a universe that is, in the end, all one great family of stardust, drifting together through the gentle night. Rest now, among your kin. And perhaps the silence is not distance, and not death, but something quieter and harder to name. Perhaps they are here, in some sense, or near, and we simply cannot know them. For we look for minds like our own. We listen for radio, because we use radio. We watch for the kinds of works we ourselves might build. We imagine the others as versions of us, a little older, a little wiser, but recognizable, reachable, speaking in ways we could learn to understand. But there is no promise that a mind grown on another world would be anything like ours at all. It might think on timescales so slow that a single thought takes 1,000 years, so that to such a being our whole busy civilization is a brief flicker, gone before they have finished turning to look. Or it might think so fast, and live so briefly, that whole generations of it rise and fall in the time it takes us to speak a single word. It might not gather in cities, or send signals, or build the kinds of things we would notice. It might be vast and slow and quiet, spread thin across a world or a sea, dreaming its long dreams in a language that is not made of sound, or light, or anything we have ever thought to listen for. If a mind were strange enough, we might stand in the middle of its works and never know. We might mistake it for weather, or geology, or the plain and natural order of some far world, the way an ant might crawl across a great machine and understand none of it, feeling only the warmth, and the hum, and the smooth hard ground beneath its feet. The universe might be full of intelligence of kinds we have no word for, and we might be searching right past it, listening for a voice while all around us something vaster than voice goes quietly about its business, on scales too large, or too small, or too slow, or too strange, for us to recognize as thought at all. And there is a softer version of this wondering, too, one that some have held to gently over the years. Perhaps the others do know we are here. Perhaps they are old, and wise, and patient, and they have simply chosen to stay quiet. To watch, and not to interfere. To let a young world grow up on its own, undisturbed, the way one might stand quietly at the edge of a meadow, not wishing to frighten the small wild things that live there. Perhaps there is a kind of gentleness in the silence. Perhaps we are being given room. Left alone, not out of coldness, but out of care, to find our own way, at our own pace, until we are ready, someday, to be spoken to. It cannot be proven. It may not be true. But there is a comfort in it all the same, the thought that the quiet might be a kindness, and that somewhere, unseen, older and gentler eyes might be watching over this young and restless world with something like patience, and something like hope. We cannot know which of these it is. Whether the others are absent, or distant, or dead, or drifting past all recognition, or simply quiet, and kind, and waiting. The sky gives us the same soft silence for every one of these answers, and we cannot yet tell them apart. But you may choose, tonight, which of them to fall asleep inside. And there is no harm, as you drift off, in choosing the gentle one. In imagining that the dark is not empty, but watchful, and warm. That the quiet is not neglect, but patience. That somewhere out there, older minds are keeping their own long watch, content to let one small blue world turn slowly through its night, and dream, and rest, and wake again to wonder. Let the silence be kind, then, as you settle. Not the silence of an empty house, but the silence of a room where someone you trust sits nearby, awake, while you fall asleep. You do not need to fill it. You do not need to break it. You can simply lie within it, held and unhurried, and let it be exactly what it is. A gentle quiet, keeping watch, as the stars turn slowly overhead, and you sink, softly, toward the deep. And here is a thought to hold most gently of all as the night grows deep. Perhaps the others we are searching for are not only out there, somewhere in the dark. Perhaps, in the long slow turning of the ages, the others are us. Perhaps we are the ones the universe has been waiting for. For the galaxy is old, but it is not finished. There are ages upon ages still ahead, far more time to come than has yet passed. And we are here near the beginning of things, a young species, only just learning to leave our own world, only just sending our first small craft out past the planets and into the deep. Already, a few of our machines are drifting beyond the edge of the sun's reach, carrying their quiet messages, their maps and their music, out into the dark between the stars. They move slowly, far slower than light, and it will be tens of thousands of years before they so much as near another sun. But they are moving. They are out there now, tonight, sailing silently through the void, the first faint reaching of our kind toward the others. Small bottles, cast into the enormous sea, on the chance that someone, someday, might find them, and know that once, on a small blue world, there lived a people who wondered, and who reached. And this is only the beginning of our reaching. Give us time, 10,000 years, 100,000, a mere breath in the life of the galaxy, and who can say how far we might spread? Perhaps our descendants, changed and grown in ways we cannot imagine, will drift out slowly among the stars, world by world, patient across the ages, until one day the galaxy is quietly full of them, full of us, full of the children of this one small night. Perhaps, in some far age, a young creature on a distant world will look up at its own strange sky and wonder whether it is alone, and the answer, unknown to it, will be no. It is not alone. For we are there, by then, or the far grandchildren of we are there, having crossed the long dark at last, having become the very others that we, tonight, are searching for. It may be that every galaxy full of life begins just this way. With one small world, and one young people, near the dawn of things, lying awake beneath the stars and wondering if anyone is out there. And it may be that the wondering itself is the first small step of the answer. That the ones who ask the question, if they survive, and grow gentle, and learn to cross the dark, become in time the ones who fill the silence. That we are not only the askers, but perhaps the beginning of the answer. The first faint light of a galaxy slowly waking to itself, with us, tonight, as one of its earliest and most tender sparks. There is no weight in this thought, only wonder. You do not have to carry the future of your kind to sleep with you tonight. But you may rest inside the hope of it. That this long story is only beginning. That the silence we hear may be the silence before the music starts, and not after it has ended. That we may be not the lonely survivors of a dead and empty sky, but the early ones, the first ones, the ancestors of a warmth that will one day spread across the whole vast dark. And that everything wonderful the universe might yet become, all the light and life and gentleness of its far future, is still ahead, still possible, still waiting, and begins, in some small way, with people like you, on nights like this, simply wondering, and caring, and choosing to reach. Sleep, then, as one of the early ones. As a small bright spark near the dawn of a long story whose ending no one has yet seen. The reaching can wait for morning, and for all the morning still to come. Tonight you have only to rest and to dream, perhaps, of the far worlds your kind may someday gently touch. And there is one more soft answer to the silence, perhaps the gentlest of them all, and it is made not of distance, but of time. For even if the galaxy has held many peoples, rising and wondering and reaching, they need not have been here all at once. The galaxy is more than 10 billion years old. A civilization, even a long and fortunate one, might last only a few thousand years, or a few million, before it changes past knowing, or grows quiet, or fades. And a few thousand years, set against 10 billion, is the briefest flicker. A single candle, lit for one short evening, in a hall that has stood empty for ages, and will stand for ages more. Imagine a great dark house, and imagine that all through its long history, now and then, in one room or another, a candle is lit for a little while, and then goes out. If you walked through that house on any given night, you might find every room dark, and conclude that no one had ever lived there. And yet the house might have known 1,000 candles, 10,000, each burning brightly in its own brief hour, none of them ever lit at quite the same time as another. So it may be with the sky. Perhaps many have come before us, and burned their little while, and gone, long before the earth had even formed. Perhaps others will come long after us, kindled around stars not yet born, on worlds still gathering out of dust that is, tonight, only a cold and drifting cloud. And perhaps, in all the vast history of the galaxy, no two of these bright brief candles were ever lit close enough together, in time or in space, to see each other's light. We might be alone tonight not because the galaxy is empty, but because we are early to some gatherings and late to others, out of step, by millions of years, with every other flicker that ever was or ever will be. Ships passing in a night that is billions of years long, each one bright for a moment, none ever glimpsing the other's lamps. There is a quiet grief in that, if you let it in, but there is a deeper peace as well. For it means the darkness is not a judgment, and not a warning, but only the plain arithmetic of a universe far older and far larger than any single life within it. It means that our own brief candle, lit tonight, burning in this one short age, is neither a failure nor a mistake. It is simply our turn. Our small allotted while to shine, in a hall so vast and so old that we may never see another flame. And there is a dignity in that. To burn brightly for your little while, warm and aware and full of wonder, and to ask nothing of the dark except the room to shine. Your own life is such a candle, smaller still, and briefer. A single evening's flame in the long night of the world. And that is not a sorrow. That is the whole of what it means to be alive. To be given a little while of warmth and light, and to spend it well, gently, wondering at the vast dark house you find yourself in, before your own small flame softens, and lowers, and goes at last to rest. You are burning now, quietly, in your one short age. And tonight, your only task is to let that flame grow low and peaceful, and to rest, and to trust that the hall will keep, and the long night will hold you, as it has held every candle that ever burned, and every one that ever will. And if all of this feels like idle dreaming, remember how new our knowledge is, and how quickly the dark has begun to fill with worlds. Not so very long ago, within the memory of people still living, we knew of only one family of planets in all the universe, our own. The worlds that circle our own Sunday. Beyond them, the sky was only stars, and whether any of those stars held worlds of their own was a question no one could answer. It was pure faith, or pure hope, to imagine that they did. And then, gently, quietly, we learned to see them. We built instruments patient enough to catch the faintest signs. The tiny wobble of a star, tugged ever so slightly by the pull of an unseen world. The almost imperceptible dimming of a star's light as a planet crossed its face, a shadow no larger than a moth passing before a distant lamp. And one by one, the hidden worlds began to appear. First a few, then dozens, then hundreds. And then, as our patient watchers swept across great fields of stars, thousands. Thousands upon thousands of new worlds, found circling other suns, each one a place that no human eye had ever known was there. Worlds of fire, whipping around their stars in a matter of days. Worlds of ice, drifting far out in the cold. Giant worlds, greater than any in our own system, and small rocky worlds, not so different in size from the ground beneath your feet. In a single generation, the sky went from empty to crowded. From a scattering of distant suns to a vast garden of worlds, more than we can easily count, and every one of them was always there, waiting, all through the long ages when we did not yet know how to look. And when we gathered up all that we had found, and reckoned what it meant, the number that came back was staggering. For if even the worlds we have found are only the nearest and the easiest to see, then the whole galaxy must hold billions upon billions of planets. More worlds than there are stars. And among them, some great number, many billions, must be small and rocky and gently warmed, circling their stars at just the right distance for water to pool and linger. Billions of worlds, in our own galaxy alone, where the conditions might be kind to life. And beyond our galaxy, the countless others, each with its own billions, out to the very edge of what we can see. The arithmetic becomes almost impossible to hold. The homes are simply too many to number. And that changes the shape of the old question. For once, it was reasonable to wonder whether there were any other worlds at all. Now we know there are more than we could visit in 1,000 lifetimes. The question is no longer whether the places exist. We have found the places. Billions of them, warm and watered and waiting. The only question left is whether anything ever stirred there. Whether, on even one of all those countless gentle worlds, the same slow miracle that happened here ever happened there. And that, we do not yet know. But it is a very different kind of silence, is it not, to stand in an empty house, than to stand in a house of 1 billion rooms, every one of them dark, and wonder whether any of them was ever, even once, home to something warm. We are only just beginning to look into those rooms, to catch the light that passes through the airs of distant worlds, and read, in it, the faint signatures of what they are made of. To ask whether any of them carries the particular chemistry that living things leave behind. It is delicate, painstaking work, at the very edge of what we can do, and it will take many years and much patience. But it has begun. For the first time in the whole long history of our kind, we have the tools to sniff the air of other worlds, and to ask them, gently, whether anyone is breathing. The answer may be no, world after world after world. Or one night, on one far world, it may be something else. Something that makes the whole sky feel suddenly less quiet. We do not know which. We are only just now learning how to ask. And is that not a wondrous time to be alive? To live in the very first generation that could see the other worlds at all. To be here, near the beginning of the looking, when the sky has only just begun to fill with places, and the great question has only just begun to be something we might actually, someday, answer. Every generation before yours lived and died without knowing whether a single other world existed. You live in the first age that knows the sky is full of them. That is a gift, quietly, a piece of great good fortune, to be born just as the dark began to reveal its hidden gardens. So let the numbers settle over you now, not as facts to hold, but as a soft and spacious comfort. Billions of worlds. More homes than could ever be counted, scattered warm and patient through the dark. You live in a universe that does not seem to be running short of room, or of possibility, or of quiet places where something gentle might one day wake, and look up, and wonder, just as you are wondering now. And whether those places are full or empty, they are there, and they are beautiful, and they are yours to dream about, tonight, as you let the last of your thoughts drift out among them, and slowly, softly, close your eyes. And imagine, softly, just for a moment, what it might be like, the night it finally comes. Not to frighten yourself, but to wonder, gently, at the size of it. Somewhere, in some quiet observatory, on some ordinary evening, a signal arrives. At first no one is sure. It has happened before, these little flutters of hope, and always, in the end, they have turned out to be something near and dull. A satellite. A stray flicker of our own machines. So they check, and check again, and turn other telescopes toward the same small patch of sky, and wait, and hardly dare to breathe. And this time, the signal is still there. Clear, and narrow, and patient, coming from far beyond the nearest stars. Not from anything we made. Not from anything nature makes. A single, deliberate note, sung across the light years, saying, in the only way it can, we are here. Think of that quiet room in that quiet moment. Think of the few tired people in it, realizing, slowly, that the oldest question of our whole long history has just, at last, been answered. That the silence is broken. That we are not alone, and never were. Think of how the news would spread, by morning, across the whole waking world. Every screen, every voice, every language, carrying the same impossible, wonderful words. Someone is out there. We have heard them. After all the thousands of years of looking up and wondering, after all the fires and the stories and the sleepless nights, we finally know. We are not the only ones. We might never understand the message. It might take a lifetime, or many, to learn even the smallest piece of what it says. We might never be able to answer, or if we did, the reply might not return for 1,000 years. It would not bring them any closer. The dark would be just as wide the next night as it was the last. And yet everything would be changed, forever, by that one small certainty. That the universe is not empty. That somewhere across the great and gentle dark, another mind looked up at its own stars, and wondered, and reached out, just as we have reached. That we have neighbors. That the long silence was only ever a silence, and not an emptiness, and now, at last, it has a voice in it besides our own. It may happen in your lifetime. It may not happen for 1,000 years. It may, for all our listening, never happen at all. But it could. On any ordinary night, including, perhaps, a night not so very different from this one, the sky could speak. And every night that it does not, we go on listening, and the possibility stays open, bright and patient, one of the great gentle maybes of being alive. There may be a signal on its way to us even now, crossing the last of the dark, closer each night than the night before, meant for some future evening when the right ear is finally turned the right way. We cannot know. We can only keep the possibility, like a small warm light, and carry it gently with us into sleep. So let it be your last soft wandering tonight. That somewhere out there, the answer may already be traveling toward us, silent and sure, through the enormous dark. That one day, perhaps, the sky will no longer be a question, but a conversation. And that you were here, in the long hopeful age before it came, one of the countless dreamers who looked up, and listened, and wondered, and did not know, and found the not knowing beautiful. Rest now, inside the maybe. It is one of the gentlest places there is. Perhaps life is rare, and we are precious. Perhaps it is common, and merely far. Perhaps they are early, or gone, or sleeping, or so changed we could not know them. Perhaps they are quietly watching. Perhaps they are calling in a language we cannot yet hear. Perhaps they are here already, unseen. Or perhaps the great crossing is simply too wide for anyone, ever, and every wandering mind is an island, alone in its own small sea. We do not know which of these is true. We may not know for a very long time. Perhaps not in your lifetime, or in mine. Perhaps not for 1,000 years. And there is a strange, soft freedom in that not knowing. For it means the sky is still open. The story is not yet finished. The greatest discovery our species could ever make is still out there, waiting, somewhere among the stars, for some quiet night, and some patient watcher, and some signal that has not yet arrived. We are living inside the mystery, not after it. And there are few gentler places to fall asleep than inside a mystery so vast, and so beautiful, and so unhurried, that it will still be here, patient and unsolved, long after you have woken, and lived your day, and returned again to rest. And so we return, gently, to where we began. To you, lying beneath the night, wondering whether anyone is out there. And here is the tender thing. Whichever answer turns out to be true, the wonder does not fade. It only deepens. For if we are alone, truly and completely alone, then the universe has, in you, one of its only ways of knowing itself. Then every star you can see is being witnessed, perhaps, for the only time in all of creation. Then the softness of this night, and the quiet of your breathing, and the simple fact that you can wonder at all, become almost unbearably precious. A single candle, in a cathedral the size of the cosmos. And if we are not alone, if the sky is quietly full of others, of gentle minds on far and watered worlds, then you are joined, across the enormous dark, to countless unseen companions. Then somewhere, tonight, beneath another sun, someone is lying just as you are, gazing up at their own strange stars, feeling the same soft wonder, asking the very same quiet question. And though you will never meet, you are, in the deepest way, together. Two small lights, wandering about each other across the vast and gentle night. And perhaps that is the quiet gift hidden inside this whole long question. That in asking whether we are alone, we find, softly, that we are not. For the very fact that you can wonder at all, that the universe has, in you, a small warm place where it looks back at itself and asks what it all means, is itself a kind of miracle, whether or not it has ever happened anywhere else. Every star that has ever shone was, for most of the history of the cosmos, unseen by any eye. Every galaxy turned in the dark with no one to know its beauty. And then, on one small blue world, matter arranged itself, slowly and improbably, into something that could look up, and see, and care. You are that something. You are the universe, grown quiet and aware, wondering about the rest of itself from a warm bed on an ordinary night. Whether the sky is crowded or empty, that is a wonder that belongs to you, tonight, completely. No distance can take it away. No silence can diminish it. The stars do not have to answer for the night to be beautiful. And you do not have to solve the mystery to rest softly inside it. Either way, you are not truly alone with the question. For every human who has ever lived has looked up, at some point, and felt this same soft wonder. The first people around their fires. The sailors beneath unfamiliar skies. The children at the window, and the dreamers on the hillsides, and all the quiet ones who could not sleep, and went outside, and looked up, and wondered. For as long as there have been people asking this. Every culture that has ever lived beneath the stars has filled the dark with stories. They saw gods and heroes in the patterns of the lights. They wondered whether the dead went up to dwell among them, or whether other lands, other beings, other lives, drifted somewhere in that endless sky. The question is older than writing, older than cities, older than any language we still speak. It was carried around the first fires, and whispered in the mouths of caves, and passed down, quietly, through 10,000 generations, all the way to you, tonight, lying here in the soft dark. Every one of them looked up at the very same stars, more or less, that you can see now. And every one of them felt, at least once, this same small ache of wonder. Are we alone? Is anyone else out there? You are only the latest to hold it. And one night, long from now, someone else will hold it after you. You are the newest of them. And tonight, the ancient question rests gently with you. So let it rest. You do not need to answer it. No one ever has. It is enough, tonight, simply to hold it softly, the way you might hold a smooth stone, or a warm cup, or the hand of someone you love. It is enough to lie here, beneath the vast and quiet sky, and to feel yourself a part of it. Made of its very atoms. Warmed by one of its stars. A small and gentle piece of the universe, wondering, for a little while, about the rest. And there is a deep peace in that, if you let yourself feel it. You do not stand apart from the great dark, staring out at it like a stranger through a window. You are made of it. The iron in your blood, the calcium in your bones, the very breath moving softly in and out of you, were all born in the stars, long ago, and gathered here, for a little while, into you. When you look up at the night, it is not something separate looking at something else. It is the universe, turning gently to look at itself. You belong to it as completely as a wave belongs to the sea. And whatever the answer to tonight's question turns out to be, that belonging can never be taken from you. You are home. You have always been home. The whole vast sky is your home, and you are resting, now, in the heart of it. So let the question go soft. Let it become not a puzzle to solve, but a lullaby to drift on. Are we alone? Is anyone out there? Round and round, gently, like the slow turning of the stars, asking nothing, answering nothing, simply carrying you, wave by soft wave, toward sleep. And now, as the question settles, let the stars begin to soften above you. You have traveled a long way tonight, in your quiet imagining. Out past the moon and the planets. Across the light years, to Proxima and its lonely world. To the 7 sisters of Trappist, glowing in their red and gentle light. Through the great listening dishes, and the deep silence, and the many soft answers to the oldest of questions. And now, slowly, you can let all of it drift away, like a tide going gently out. You have wondered, tonight, one of the great wonderings. You have held the oldest question our kind has ever asked, and turned it softly in the quiet, and found, as all who came before you found, that it has no easy answer. And that is all right. You were never meant to solve it. You were only meant to feel it, for a little while. To lie beneath the vast night, and sense your own small place within it, and let the wonder move through you like a slow and gentle music. And now that music is fading, softly, into silence, and it is time to rest. You do not need to hold any of it. Let the numbers fade. Let the worlds grow dim. Let the whole vast sky settle into a soft and distant glow, the way a busy day settles, at last, into the quiet of sleep. There is nothing more to do. Nowhere more to go. Whether the universe is full or empty, it will keep turning without you, slowly and softly, all through the night. The stars will drift. The galaxies will wheel. The great dishes will go on listening in the dark. And you can let go of all of it, and simply rest. Breathe in, slowly, and let it go. With each breath now, you sink a little deeper. A little softer. A little further from the day, and closer to the warm dark of sleep. Feel how small and safe you are, held within something so vast. Not lost in it, but part of it. A quiet flicker of awareness, wrapped in the great and gentle dark. There is nothing out there to fear tonight. Only distance and silence, and the soft light of countless suns, keeping watch over you as you drift. Think of them, those far suns, not as cold and empty things, but as gentle lanterns, hung across the dark, each one warming its own small family of worlds, just as ours warms us. Some of them have been shining since long before the Earth was born, and will go on shining long after tonight is forgotten. They do not hurry. They do not worry. They simply burn, softly and steadily, pouring their light out into the night, asking nothing in return. And their light, some of it, is falling on you now, having crossed unimaginable gulfs of space and time just to reach this quiet room, this soft moment, this one drowsy mind, settling towards sleep. You are bathed, even in the dark, in ancient starlight. Held, even now, in the gentle glow of a universe far older and far kinder than any fear the day could give you. Let that light settle over you like a warm and weightless blanket. Let it soften the last of your thoughts. There is nowhere you need to be, and nothing you need to know, and no question you need to answer, ever again tonight. The stars will keep their long watch. The galaxies will turn. And you can let go, completely, and simply rest beneath them, safe and small and warm. And if, somewhere far away, beneath some other star, another gentle mind is drifting toward sleep just as you are, then let that be your last soft thought. That you are not alone in wondering. That the great dark is threaded through with quiet dreamers, each one small, each one precious, each one slowly closing their eyes beneath their own strange sky. So let yourself grow heavier now, and softer, and more still. There is nothing left to think about tonight. The great question can keep. It has waited for thousands of years, and it will wait, gently, until morning. You do not need to carry it into your dreams. You can set it down, here, in the quiet, like a book left open on a bedside table, and simply rest. Feel the weight of your body sinking softly into whatever holds you. Let your feet grow heavy, and your legs, and your hands, and your arms. Let your shoulders drop, and your jaw soften, and the small muscles around your eyes let go. With every slow breath, another part of you settles a little deeper, a little further from the day. There is nothing left that needs your attention, the whole enormous universe will go on turning perfectly well without your watching. So you can release it now, all of it. Let the last thoughts of the day loosen and drift, like clouds thinning and clearing from a night sky, until there is only the quiet, and the stars, and your own soft breathing. Let any tightness you have been holding, in your brow, in your chest, in your hands, simply melt, and spread, and disappear into the warmth of the bed beneath you. Sinking. Softening. Slowing. Each breath a little quieter than the last. Breathe in, gently, and out. And with the out-breath, feel yourself drift down, the way a feather drifts, the way a leaf turns slowly as it falls through still air. There is no effort in it. There is nowhere to fall to but rest. And as you drift, let the great and gentle dark gather softly around you. Not a frightening dark, but a warm one. The same soft dark that fills the space between the stars. The same quiet that holds the galaxies as they turn. You are wrapped in it now, cradled in it, a small and drowsy point of warmth in the vast and peaceful night. Above you, the stars are turning, slowly, as they have turned for billions of years, and as they will turn for billions more, long after this night, and this question, and this quiet moment have gently passed away. They ask nothing of you. They only shine, softly, keeping their long and patient watch, while you let go, and sink, and rest. Let the far worlds drift on without you. Proxima, with its lonely planet. The seven sisters of Trappist, glowing red. The hidden seas beneath the ice, and the great dishes still turned to the sky, listening in the dark. Let them all grow faint and distant, like the memory of a place you once visited, long ago, in a dream. They will keep. The universe will keep. And you can let it all soften into a gentle, distant glow. There is only this now. Your slow breathing. The soft weight of your body. The warm dark, holding you. And somewhere far above, the quiet, endless drift of the stars. The stars are fading gently above you now. The universe grows quiet. The question rests. And there is nothing left but the soft and endless calm, holding you, as you let yourself drift down, down, into the deep and gentle dark. There is no edge here, and no ending. No question you must answer. No distance you must cross. Only the soft and endless calm, and your own slow breathing, growing quieter, and slower, and deeper, with every gentle wave. Let each breath carry you a little further out, the way a small boat drifts from the shore on a still and silent night, until the lights of the land are only a faint and distant glow, and there is nothing around you but the soft dark water, and the soft dark sky, and the quiet stars turning slowly overhead. There is nothing to fear out here. The night is kind. The universe is old, and patient, and it has held far more than you in its gentle dark, and kept it safe, and let it rest. You are so small, and so precious, and so held. A brief and lovely gathering of stardust, wandering for a little while, and now, gently, letting go of the wondering, and simply being. Simply breathing. Simply drifting, softer and softer, down into sleep. And whether the great dark is full of others, or holds only you tonight, it makes no difference now. For here, in this quiet, you are exactly where you are meant to be. Warm. Safe. Held. A single soft light, closing its eyes at last, beneath the vast and gentle sky. Rest now. Sleep now. And let the quiet universe keep turning, slowly and softly, all around you, while you sleep. This has been Hypnos Cosmos. Rest well, and drift among the stars again, tomorrow night.